That was a fun death game horror manga that wasn't amazing but also wasn't entirely horrible. Its sequels, however, make Doubt look like a masterpiece by comparison, or at least that's what most people say. So let's go ahead and take a deep dive into the first sequel, Judge, and see if the story and mystery are actually good or a huge disappointment. Now this is my first video back from Japan, and the videos that I uploaded while I was gone weren't really up to par with my regular videos. But now that we're back, I'm very excited to bring you guys some brand new content, and what better way to start it off with another voting poll. This whole month we are going to be doing a voting poll, taking votes for your favorite horror manga or manhwa. The series with the most votes will be getting a video review released July 30th. The winner will be announced on July 1st, so go down in the description below and click on the Google form to begin voting now. But without further ado, let's get on with the video. The series begins with an unknown man bleeding out in front of 6 mysterious individuals, begging them to help him. The story then introduces 2 brothers, Hiro and Atsuya, who are at a store along with Hiro's childhood friend and Atsuya's girlfriend, Hikari. Atsuya is the charming older brother who can get any girl's attention whenever he wants, while Hiro is the quiet, reserved type who secretly envies his brother. Atsuya makes plans with Hikari to meet at the train station at 6 p.m. After he leaves, Hiro and Hikari spend some more time together. While shopping, Hikari asks Hiro to help her pick out a Christmas present for Atsuya. During this, she tells the story of how she confessed to him. A boy had just asked her out, but the first person who came to mind was Atsuya. At that moment was when she realized that she loved him. She went to go confess, and to her surprise, he said yes. Hiro finds it strange how easily she can say the word love over and over again, but Hikari replies that there's nothing embarrassing about saying you love the person you love. Before they part ways, Hikari gives Hiro an early Christmas gift. On his way home, Hiro receives a call from Atsuya asking where Hikari is. Hiro replies that she's heading back home, and he opens his gift to see a rabbit keychain with the phrase, "Success in Love." Hiro then lies to Atsuya saying that Hikari has to do a rain check on the date and push it back to an hour. On the day of the date, Atsuya is at work speaking with his boss. Since he no longer needs to leave early, his boss sends him on a booze run for the bar. But before Atsuya can cross the street, a drunk driver crashes into him. Meanwhile, Hiro is on the way to meet Hikari, planning to confess his love. However, when he arrives, he sees her crying on the phone. Atsuya has been killed. She breaks down in Hiro's arms, and in that moment, Hiro realizes that his actions led to his brother's death. The screen fades to black. 2 years later, Hiro wakes up locked in a prison cell. He gets up to find himself handcuffed and wearing a rabbit mask. Noticing the cell door is open, he steps into the hallway. As he walks, he recalls the last thing he remembers, walking home from school and then being struck in the head with a baseball bat. He enters a courtroom and notices another animal mask laying on the ground. As he approaches, he slips and falls, right next to the dead body of the man from the story's opening. Suddenly, several other people appear, all wearing different animal masks. A dog puppet appears out of nowhere, welcoming all 9 participants and officially beginning Judge. Alright, I'm already calling it. The mastermind is either Atsuya or Hikari. Obviously. I know this is just chapter 1 out of like 32, but it just makes the most sense for the 2 people that have been wronged by Hiro to kidnap him and put him in a death game. But now the real question is, why would the others be there, and how could this all be tied to the first series? Hiro begins to panic, but one of the participants releases him from his cuffs. Suddenly, the lights turn on, and the person in the cat mask points towards a timer counting down. The horse mask participant grabs the puppet and throws it in anger. Hiro tries to take off his mask, but another participant, the one wearing the wolf mask, stops him by smacking his hand away. The cat mask tells him that the man lying dead on the ground died because he removed his mask, so they should all keep theirs on. Hiro asks who they are, but the lion mask explains that they're all in the same position as he is. They were all kidnapped and locked up there. The dog mask adds that there's no escape. All the hallways loop back to the same location, except for one locked door. The lion picks up the puppet and begins tearing it open, revealing a videotape inside. He explains that he suspected something was hidden inside after hearing a strange noise when the horse threw it earlier. As the lion holds up the tape, the horse snatches it out of his hands, and in the process, a small key falls to the floor. One interesting detail that is worth pointing out is that there's the little illustration that appears at the end of each chapter. It's a white page showing a deadly sin attached to an animal. The first one that we saw was a rabbit with the sin envy, which fits Hiro perfectly. The horse is associated with wrath, matching his short temper, and the bear is linked to sloth since he's mostly just seen doing nothing in the background. Maybe this part of sins matches with the game, and then this is going to be their judgment day basically. The key doesn't unlock the main door, but they also can't find a VCR for the small TV. However, they soon realize that there's a small keyhole underneath the TV. The horse uses the key to unlock it and finds a VCR and something taped to the ceiling of the storage area. When asked what's wrong, the horse lies and says that it's nothing. They insert the tape and the TV begins playing a video of the stuffed animal sitting in a chair. It welcomes them to the world of Judge. Before continuing, the stuffed animal instructs everyone to remove their mask. Although everyone is hesitant, the lion removes his first, and his face closely resembles Hajime from Doubt. He appears fine and encourages everyone to take theirs off, assuring them that it's safe. He then points out the ceiling. Hiro looks up and notices a security camera, realizing that they're being watched. The scene cuts to a group of people sitting down and observing them through the monitors. The reason the man with the pig mask died was that he removed his mask when he wasn't supposed to. Following this, everyone, including Hiro, removes their mask. Suddenly, the stuffed animal begins listing off the 7 deadly sins. It explains that each of them carries the weight of one of these sins and is now being given a chance to atone. Every time the timer hits 0, one of them must be sacrificed. By the end, only 4 will be allowed to live. They must judge one another's sins. Every 12 hours, they'll hold a vote. The person with the most votes will be sacrificed. However, if not all participants are present during the judgment, they will all be punished together. It's up to them to decide who will be among the final 4 survivors. Then, the TV shuts off. This is a really interesting death game setup. In Doubt, I compared it a lot to Among Us with an imposter hidden among the group, but without the voting aspect. In Judge, it's the total opposite. It's all about voting, with no imposters involved. I really like that aspect of this. We then cut to an apartment. A mother berating her son, saying she's humiliated to be his mother. Moments later, the son kills her, and it's revealed that the son is the person wearing the bear mask. Back in the courtroom, the lion decides to return to his room. Hiro protests, but the lion says he doesn't want to be around people who might try to kill him. Others begin to leave too, and Hiro is left alone. With only 3 hours remaining, Hiro is approached by the person in the cat mask, who introduces himself as Kazu. The two talk, and Kazu advises Hiro not to stand out too much, or he might become a target. Hiro then confesses that his sin is causing his brother's death. Just as Kazu is about to share his own story, the lion returns and accuses them of plotting together to escape. Hiro tries to argue, but another participant notices the tension, and Hiro drops it. With only 1 hour left, all participants gather in the courtroom to discuss who they'll vote for, except the bear, who remains in his room. The horse goes to check on him, but while waiting, one of the participants says that they recognize the horse from somewhere. The horse soon returns and announces that the bear has locked himself in his room and is planning to take everyone down with him. Hiro and Kazu volunteer to talk to the bear. They agree that if they can't get through to him in 30 minutes, the horse will break down the door. They arrive, and Hiro goes first and tries to reason with the bear. However, it doesn't work. Then, Kazu takes a turn. He tells the bear that he doesn't need to respond, but to just listen. Kazu explains that he used to be rich and could buy anything that he ever wanted. However, that didn't make him happy. At first, this enrages the bear, but Kazu continues, revealing that he was never able to be attracted to women. He felt lonely and miserable, and when he finally came to his parents, they disowned him. Despite that, Kazu says that he doesn't regret it, because if he has nowhere else to go, he can always find another place to belong. The bear replies that he knows they'll just vote him out the second he steps out of his room, essentially offering himself up to die. But suddenly, Hiro gets an idea. He promises the bear that there's a way to save everybody. Hiro, Kazu, and the bear return to the courtroom, Hiro telling the group that they should all vote for themselves. If everyone receives exactly one vote, then no one would die. If they continue voting this way, it might buy them enough time for the police to rescue them. The volume ends with 10 minutes remaining. As they prepare to vote, the lion laughs and mocks Hiro's plan, calling him simplistic for trusting that everyone would actually follow through. The votes are in, and the once locked door is now open. The timer resets to 12 hours and begins ticking again. The group decides to walk through the door. As they make their way down the hallway, Hiro realizes that no one has died, meaning everyone must have voted for themselves. They all begin introducing themselves. The wolf is named Rina, the horse is Shinomiya, the lion is Takizawa, the dog is Asami, and the second pig is Miku. When it's the bear's turn, he looks nervous and hesitates to share his name. Before he can say it, Asami points out 3 doors. One is locked, another leads to a restroom, and the last room is filled with records and files of past trial minutes. The group agrees to split up and spend their time freely until the final hour before the next vote. After an hour passes, Kazu confesses that something feels off. He feels uneasy about the fact that there are other people running the game and allowing them to vote for themselves so easily. This prompts Hiro to recall the bear's odd behavior, and decides to check on him. As Hiro approaches the bear's room, he hears a scream from the courtroom. The bear then admits that he didn't vote for himself, he voted for Shinomiya, the horse, because he looked down on him, just like his mother used to. Horrified, Hiro calls him a murderer and then rushes out to investigate the scream. He passes by the courtroom and sees the horse's mask lying on the ground. He then heads into the file room and finds Miku on top of Takizawa. She had slipped and fallen on top of him. They both notice how Hiro looks concerned, but he brushes it off and says that it's nothing. Hiro returns to the courtroom and finds the horse alive, holding onto something that had been taped to the underside of the desk. Hiro is relieved and nervously walks away. As he walks back to the bear's room, he pieces it together. The horse must have voted for the bear, canceling out the bear's vote against him. We then see what the horse had pulled from beneath the desk, a small pistol. When Hiro reaches the bear's room, he finds it locked. He apologizes through the door for what he said earlier, but there's no response. Takizawa and Rina appear behind them and ask what's going on. Suddenly, the bear's door opens and he collapses to the floor, dead. Takizawa goes off to inform the others, but not before giving Rina a sharp, cold look. Rina then confesses to Hiro that after he and Kazu left to talk to the bear, Takizawa mentioned wanting to vote him out so he wouldn't cause any more trouble. Hiro then runs off, leaving Rina behind. He storms into the courtroom and accuses the others of murdering the bear. Before he can continue, he's punched in the face by the horse. The horse is fed up with Hiro acting self-righteous and reveals that he knows that the bear voted for him. He points out the results posted up in the room. The bear received 3 votes, while the horse and the lion received none. If they had actually followed Hiro's plan, the horse would have been the one to die. Takizawa, the horse, and Asami leave the room, heading into the hallway as the 8-hour countdown continues. The horse and Asami begin to panic. There are only 3 of them versus the remaining 4, but Takizawa says that he has a plan. Meanwhile, Hiro is desperate to figure out how to cooperate with the others, but realizes that everyone has already decided to vote against the other group. Though it disappoints him, he understands why they feel that way, and then quietly agrees to join their side. As he walks through the halls, Hiro runs into Takizawa. They discuss the possibility of cooperation, but Takizawa insists that it's impossible. He claims that the people running the game want them to kill each other, and then shows Hiro a note that he had since the very beginning. It reads, "The executioner is there." Takizawa explains that this means that someone among them is a traitor, so self-voting was never truly an option. Hiro doesn't want to believe it, but Takizawa lets him hold on to whatever hope he has. We cut to Kazu in his room, looking very worried. He mutters to himself, "Why did things turn out this way?" It's revealed that he still has his cell phone, and it shows one unread message. So yeah, about that part earlier where we said that there were no imposters, yeah, let's just cut that out of the video, shall we? Now honestly, I don't really like that now we're adding the traitor aspect to this. I like that it was Among Us but only the voting, and then Doubt was Among Us but only the imposter aspect. And even though the Among Us and like werewolf aspect is good, I would have really liked to see the voting aspect and not really any interference with the way people are perceiving each other. We then flashback to Takizawa's past, where his father abused and mistreated him. In the present, Takizawa swears to survive this game and take everything away from his father. Now, Hiro knows that there's an imposter among them and he has to figure out who it is. While walking through the halls, he hears whispering from inside a room. Before he can enter, Asami grabs him from behind and pulls him away to talk in private. Hiro tries to convince her not to vote for anyone, but she interrupts him. She tells him that she's afraid of the horse. She claims he threatened to kill her if she didn't comply, and that she doesn't want to vote anyone out. She suddenly hugs Hiro from behind and says that he's the only one she could trust to protect her. Then, she pins him to the floor and kisses him. Just as things start to escalate, the door begins to open slightly, and someone can be seen watching them. Hiro stops it from going any further and runs out to check if anyone had seen them, but there's no one there. The volume ends with Asami ominously stating that if someone saw what happened, they would now believe that both she and Hiro are traitors. She then gets close to him again and asks him if he can become her ally. Hiro returns to the group, having failed to convince the other side to stop the killings. However, he agrees not to argue anymore about refusing to vote people out. We flash back to the moment in the bathroom when Hiro refused to betray his group. Asami then asks him to do a favor, to leave her as the last one to die. Back in the present, the group realizes that the horse and Takizawa may try to attack him during the 12-hour window. Hiro suggests leaving Asami for last, reasoning that she isn't much of a threat. This makes the group suspicious. They question why Hiro, who was quiet about everything before, now can't stop voicing his opinions. They jokingly ask if he's been seduced or something. To avoid further suspicion, Hiro agrees to go along with the group's plan to vote off the horse. It's now time to vote, and everyone gathers in the courtroom. Hiro is still visibly upset about the situation, so he asks again if he can vote for themselves. Surprisingly, Takizawa agrees. Kazu's group assumes that this is a trap, but to prove that they're not lying, the horse votes for himself in front of everyone. Takizawa and Asami follow suit. Now, it's up to Hiro's group. Hiro votes for himself, and so do the others. The opposing group appears to relax, feeling confident that no one will die. However, Hiro begins to feel uneasy. He examines the voting panel a little bit closely and notices something alarming. The portraits can't be moved. Their panels are different from the others, which means that they might not have actually voted for themselves. It turns out Takizawa had discovered this earlier. He secretly tested the theory by swapping Hiro's portrait with the bear's, and when Hiro didn't die, he confirmed that the trick worked. Furious, Hiro pins the horse against the wall, but the horse pulls out his gun and points it directly at Hiro's head. Hiro demands to know how he got that gun, but the horse tells him that there are more important concerns, like who they actually voted for. He tells Hiro to look at the screen above, showing the final vote. The chosen target is Kazu. They voted Kazu just to eliminate one of the guys, and the horse begins laughing mockingly. Kazu runs out of the room devastated. Takizawa calmly tells Hiro that he should chase after him, since he might not have much time left. Hiro, Rina, and Miku immediately take off after Kazu. They search everywhere until they notice that the previously locked room has now been opened. The newly accessible area is massive, so the three of them split up to look for Kazu. Eventually, Hiro finds him. Kazu, looking defeated, says that things weren't supposed to turn out this way. Hiro finds Kazu's cell phone, and Kazu finally confesses that he's the traitor. He was forced into it. If he didn't comply, his mother would have been killed. He was the one who put everyone in their cells, handcuffed him, and even killed the first guy with a syringe. Hiro asks if Kazu was responsible for the bear's death or if he knew about the traitor note, but Kazu says that he doesn't know anything about that. If he's telling the truth, then that must mean that there's another traitor still among them. Hiro tells Kazu to keep surviving. He says that with the help of the others, they can all make it out alive. Kazu thanks Hiro for believing in him. As Hiro runs off to rejoin the others, he suddenly trips over something. He looks up and he sees a broken statue, and behind it, written in blood, "To avert your eyes from the truth is the most unsightly thing one can do." Next to the statue is a man bleeding out with one of his eyes stitched shut. Hiro tries to help him, but the man doesn't respond. Suddenly, Rina and Miku appear behind Hiro and ask what's going on. The injured man begins to move. He looks at Hiro and he lets out a scream. Then staggering over to the statue, he says, "I'm sorry. This is all my fault." He continues approaching and Hiro screams for him to stop, but the man just smiles at him as the statue pierces through his chest, killing him instantly. Rina and Miku scream in horror while Hiro notices fresh wounds from the man's back. He rips open the man's shirt and discovers cuts caved into his flesh, each labeled with one of the 7 deadly sins, and another fresh cut reading, "Confess the truth, otherwise, die." Hiro explains what happened with Kazu, but leaves out the part where Kazu admitted to being the traitor. The group races to Kazu's room. The volume ends with Hiro reaching the door and looking inside, only to find Kazu hanging from the ceiling, having taken his own life. But before we get to the next part, I just want to say that we now have a Discord server. So if you guys want to talk about your favorite series, get recommendations, and just connect with some like-minded fans of mine, then this is the server for you. We'll soon be hosting live community events like games, live reactions, and live readings only on the Discord server. So if you want to be involved in this, then why not scroll down and join our community. Also, we just opened up a Patreon, so if you guys want early access videos, uncensored videos, and just to support the channel in general, then why not go ahead and check out the Patreon. But back to the video. Rina finds Kazu's phone on the ground and opens it, revealing a photo of Kazu's mother lying on the floor. A message reading, "If you want to save your mother, follow the ruling of the judgment and take your own life." Rina looks at Hiro and asks if he's hiding something from them. Before he can answer, the horse, the lion, and Asami appear behind them, asking if Kazu is really dead. The horse mocks Kazu's death, which enrages Hiro, but the horse uses his gun as leverage and points it at him. He demands to know about the man Hiro found under the stairs. The horse, lion, and Hiro go downstairs to investigate while the girls stay in the nearby storage room. Takizawa examines the corpse and determines the man wasn't a participant but was likely the instigator of the game. No one recognizes him, but Hiro notices shattered pieces of the statue scattered across the floor. Takizawa finds a hidden memory card inside the man's license. With the card in hand, they return upstairs to meet with the girls. Meanwhile, in the storage room, the girls have discovered a massive door that could possibly lead to the exit. However, Hiro finds a map and notices a hidden path that isn't marked, one that might also lead outside. They follow it and enter a messy monitor room filled with trash and cigarette butts. Takizawa explains that this must be where someone has been observing them. He volunteers to stay behind and monitors the screens while the others are free to do whatever they want. Miku and Rina decide to explore more of the storage area, while everyone else stays in the monitor room. Takizawa notes that the statue downstairs is of Themis, the Greek goddess of justice and order, a symbol that all people should be treated equally. The horse, clearly bored, decides to leave the room. With 4 hours remaining until the third judgment, one of the monitors flicker to a new feed. The scene doesn't look familiar. Then a group of masked people appear on screen. They're in a different location, but they're also undergoing judgment. Asami and Hiro wonder if the footage is fake, but Hiro decides to investigate and inform the others. He heads to the storage room and finds Miku, who's surrounded by half-eaten bags of food. Hiro calls her out angrily, but Miku apologizes and begs him not to tell anyone. Hiro, being understanding, helps her hide the trash and tells her that she needs to share the rest of the food with the group. She asks why he's helping her and he replies, "I don't want to see my friends die." Afterward, Hiro reflects on how hypocritical he feels, preaching about friendship while everyone's driven by self-interest. Suddenly, screaming is heard from another room. Hiro peeks inside and sees Rina cornered by the horse, who's threatening to vote her off unless she cooperates. Hiro tries to step in, but Asami stops him. She wants to see what happens next. Rina turns the tables by revealing that she actually knows who the horse really is. He was the vocalist of the boy band Glorious. However, he had a history of drug use and violence towards other members, which eventually led to him being kicked out and placed under house arrest. She continues berating him, saying no one would ever want to like someone like him. Enraged, the horse pins her to the wall and rips a piece of her clothing. Suddenly, Asami intervenes, slapping him across the face. The horse points his gun at her but realizes that he can't kill her. If he does, it'll be 2 versus 3 in the next vote. So instead, he storms out in frustration. Asami, shaken, says that she hates men who abuse women. She then shows Rina the scars on her body, explaining that her father gave them to her when she was young. She says she sees the horse the same way that she saw her father, and asks to join Hiro's group. Cut to 10 minutes before the third judgment, everyone is in the courtroom, ready to vote. The horse, still angry, rants that the other members of his old band were just like everyone here, and once he's free, he plans to find each of them and kill them. The votes are revealed. A tie between the horse and Hiro. Hiro suspects that Asami lied to him, but the horse mockingly says that Hiro should be happy. This is what he wanted. An announcement interrupts. Since the vote is tied, Hiro and the horse must fight to the death within the time limit. If neither dies before the time runs out, they'll both be executed. A 2-hour countdown begins. The horse immediately starts attacking Hiro, landing punches. Hiro panics, yelling that he can't die. He has to survive and see her again. The horse pulls out his gun and fires, blood splattering everywhere. However, it's not his blood. It's the horse. The gun misfired, blowing off several of his fingers and causing him to go blind. But he's still alive. Hiro, shaken but compassionate, tries to save him. He still believes it's possible for everyone to survive. Meanwhile, Takizawa and Rina are in the storage room, splitting up the food supply. Takizawa admits that he hopes the horse survives, because if he does, both he and Hiro would die and the remaining 4 could escape. Shockingly, Rina agrees. Later, Rina visits Hiro and asks about the horse's condition. The horse looks terrible and won't survive without medical attention. Rina gives Hiro his portion of the food and says that she'll go ahead and take care of the horse. Hiro, thankfully, says that he can finally get some rest and leave. Now alone with the horse, Rina sits down and eats her portion. Suddenly, the door creaks open. A taser appears, and Rina falls unconscious. The only thing that could be heard is the sound of scissors slicing through the air. The volume ends with Rina waking up. She's holding scissors in her hand, and she looks around and sees blood splattered across the walls, forming the words, "The third judge, N." The horse's dead body lies nearby. Hiro wakes up from his nap, thinking everything that happened was just a bad dream. As he walks back to the courtroom, he tries to figure out who among the 3 remaining players voted for him to die. He enters the courtroom at the same time as Asami, and both of them are shocked to see Rina standing over the horse's dead body. Rina tries to explain what happened, but Asami isn't having it. Rina fires back, accusing Asami of being the killer, and gets slapped across the face for it. The argument is interrupted when Takizawa enters, confused and asking what's going on. Hiro explains everything that happened so far, including Kazu being a traitor. Takizawa responds by saying that there's no use in trying to find the killer, because the only way to win is by voting each other out. Then, Takizawa begins to suspect Hiro of killing the horse, which Hiro obviously denies. Regardless, Takizawa points out that whoever did kill the horse gave them a cell phone, and now they can examine the memory card inside. He inserts the card and discovers several folders, each labeled with the name of a participant. Each folder is filled with pictures taken in secret before the game began. As Takizawa scrolls through the images, he notices that Miku doesn't have any photos, or so he thinks. Miku walks in and asks what they're doing. Takizawa explains everything to her, and Miku suddenly grabs the phone and runs out into the hallway. Rina and Hiro chase after her, believing that she might have just killed the horse. We cut to Miku in the surveillance room, looking at the photos of her former self. Back then, she was bullied for being overweight. In the present, she calls herself Reborn as she smashes the phone in anger. Hiro watches silently while Rina storms in, demanding answers. Hiro diverts the conversation by pointing out what's showing on the monitors. Multiple dead bodies are seen on screen. Hiro notes that the bodies belong to people connected to them. Asami sees her fiancé, Rina sees her mom, and Miku's grandfather is there too, implying that Hikari must also be one of the victims. Asami declares that she's going back to the courtroom to vote for Miku in order to save her fiancé. Hiro and Rina try to convince Miku to defend herself, but Miku just wants to be left alone. Miku reveals that she was the one who voted for Hiro. She was terrified that Hiro would expose her for secretly eating all the food. She admits that she hasn't changed on the inside. She's still that same ugly person even after being reborn. A commercial for a massive weight loss program is shown. She tells him to leave her alone and promises that she'll show up for the next vote. Later, we see a flashback. Miku begging her grandfather for 10 million yen to undergo the weight loss procedure. When he refuses, she lashes out cruelly. In the present, Miku regrets her words and vows to do whatever it takes to save her grandfather from dying. It's time to vote, but Miku is late. Before anyone can go get her, she walks in and sits beside Rina. Asami and Takizawa both vote for Miku, but when it's Rina's turn, she votes for Asami. Asami is furious but quickly realizes the truth. Rina only voted that way because Miku stabbed her in the leg and forced her hand. Miku now threatens Rina with a sharp shard of glass and demands that Hiro vote for Asami or else she'll kill Rina. Hiro hesitates but ultimately casts his vote for himself. This results in a tie between Miku and Asami, triggering a fight to the death. Asami hurls a chair at Miku and begins beating her viciously. She mocks Miku while attacking her, but just as she's about to land the finishing blow, Miku grabs Asami's glasses and stabs her in the neck. Asami bleeds out and dies. The final judgment has been made. The group walks down a hallway and discovers an exit door. Miku runs towards it and tries to open it, but it's still locked. A speaker announced that the game will end when only 4 participants are remaining. Miku's confused, but then a man wearing a lion mask appears in the doorway. He points a crossbow at her and kills her on the spot. The lion masked person prepares to launch an attack, and Takizawa stands there in shock. Hiro snaps him out of it and they both flee to hide. Takizawa then reveals a shocking truth. The man in the lion mask is his father, Kazunori. There are actually 8 participants in total, and the game won't end until only 4 remain. Hiro tells Takizawa to go upstairs and inform Rina of everything while he distracts Kazunori. Kazunori breaks in and Hiro turns off the lights to make it harder for him to see. As Hiro hides, he sees someone else coming down the hallway. He assumes it's Kazunori again, but it turns out to be someone in a rabbit mask. Hiro believes it to be Hikari. Meanwhile, Takizawa makes his way to the courtroom, but someone approaches him, laughing and saying, "It's my lucky day." Hiro runs up to the rabbit masked person, trying to confirm if it's Hikari. She collapses, and when Hiro tries to remove her mask, he finds it locked. Hiro assumes one of the keys might unlock it. He picks Hikari up and begins to walk. As they move, Hikari quietly thanks him but calls him Atsuya. Hiro ignores this and just keeps on going until he spots Kazunori up ahead. Hiro is torn between sneaking past him to get the key or finishing him off right then and there. He chooses the latter and picks up a rock ready to strike, but just as he's about to hit him, Hikari says, "Hiro?" accidentally alerting Kazunori. Kazunori turns and fires the crossbow, but Hiro smashes it with a rock and runs away with Hikari in his arms. They reach the top of the stairs when someone is already waiting there. It's Takizawa. The volume ends with the shocking reveal that Takizawa was the one with the taser all along, as it appears he is the true traitor. Hiro asks what's going on, but Takizawa simply says that he found the taser. At the bottom of the stairs, Kazunori corners them. Thinking quickly, Hiro tells Hikari to run and he tackles Takizawa to the ground. Hikari doesn't understand what's happening but runs off anyways. Takizawa knocks Hiro unconscious just as his father appears, ready to kill both Hiro and one other person. Takizawa asks why he intends to kill 2 more people, and Kazunori explains that he murdered Miku's grandfather for being very nosy, which caused the others to flee, and if he killed 2 more people, then they will finally escape. Takizawa asks what happened to him after that. His father explains that he was tied to a chair in the dark. Suddenly, he realized that he was in a room filled with strangers in front of monitors. The TV instructed them to put on masks and enjoy the show. All the while, the spectators were watching the participants lay down judgment. After the first vote, the person wearing the same mask as the bear died immediately. Takizawa asks if his father understands what's really happening, but Kazunori becomes defensive. He says that this is what he's doing for a living. This is what it means to be a judge. He then mocks Takizawa, saying that he's just like his dead mother. Kazunori attempts to finish Hiro off by throwing him over the ledge, but suddenly, Hiro wakes up, grabs his arm, and holds on. At that moment, Takizawa tases his father, and Kazunori slips off the edge and dies. Takizawa praises Hiro for playing along and begins explaining his backstory. Takizawa was the child of an affair his father had with a mistress. When his mother died of an illness, Takizawa spent all of his time in the hospital. His father, though, never visited once. He was ashamed of Kazunori, and even more so after discovering that his father had accepted bribes in multiple court cases. Takizawa insists that he isn't the traitor and that he found the taser in Asami's room. She could have been the killer, but honestly it doesn't matter now since she's dead. Hiro then explains his plan to free Hikari. Takizawa goes to search Kazu's room and he retrieves the key from Kazu's body and returns to the staircase. As he talks about only keeping Hiro alive as leverage, he is suddenly attacked by his supposed dead father. Meanwhile, in the courtroom, Hiro retrieves a key from the horse's body and uses it to free Hikari from her mask. However, there's something strange about Hikari. Despite witnessing multiple murders and nearly dying herself, she shows no real emotion. Especially since Hiro rescued her, she just stares at him blankly. Wouldn't she be a little bit more emotional, excited, maybe even cry a little? This could be hinting at a bigger twist that Hikari is behind everything, which is probably the case. Maybe she found out that Hiro was responsible for her lover's death a long time ago. Everything since the first chapter is pretty much building up to this. Well, to be honest, it's only the first chapter that actually builds up to this. But now with this detail here, it kind of seems like she's behind everything. Hiro saves Hikari but still needs to find Rina. Before he can though, Kazunori appears, seemingly alive. He claims to have murdered Takizawa, however, since he's close to dying himself, he offers Hiro a deal. Bring him the remaining 2 participants and they both survive. Or refuse and you will kill one of them. Hiro accepts, but he and Hikari can't go together. Hiro stays behind. While they wait, Hiro unlocks Kazunori's restraints. They talk about who might have orchestrated everything. Kazunori says that whoever set this up clearly has a grudge against one or more of the participants. He then asks why the man near the statue has no relation to any of the others. Suddenly, Kazunori has a flashback. The man was on the witness stand during a court trial, and he remembers seeing a familiar face in the audience. It was Hikari. Kazunori grows furious and begins questioning Hiro. What is Hikari's role in on this? Hiro doesn't understand what he's talking about. Kazunori walks through the rooms, piecing together everything. Every participant was somehow connected to that one court case. Asami's fiance was a judge who worked with Kazunori, and so was Miku's grandfather. Everyone connected to Kazunori had a role as a judge or a juror in the trial. Except for one. One judge is missing, and Hikari took his place. Suddenly, Kazunori remembers the case, but he's confused, because it was just a simple traffic accident. Then in a shocking twist, Hiro pulls out a syringe and stabs Kazunori in the shoulder. You finally remembered, you scum. Kazunori wakes up in a room with a chain around his neck and a box beneath him. Hiro and Hikari orchestrated the entire game after learning that the trial had been rigged. The original sentence was for 5 years, but it was suspended after over 10 million yen in bribes were paid to the judges and jurors. Now, even though the participants had nothing directly to do with the crime, they each used their 10 million yen reward to fuel their own sins. Hiro was the one who killed the bear, Kazu, and even the horse, seeking revenge for his older brother, Atsuya. Kazunori laughs, claiming that his high status protects him, but Hikari enters and hands Hiro a bottle of water. She shows Kazunori a CD that Takizawa had made, one intended to expose his father. Hiro then shows him a news report, stating that Kazunori Takezawa is now a wanted man for the kidnapping of 10 people and years of bribery. Kazunori panics, but in his confusion, he trips over the box and breaks his neck. Hiro cuts the restraints and arranges the scene to look like a suicide guilt. Hikari hugs him and tells him that their new life begins now. The game of judge has officially concluded. Rina and her mother are rescued by Hiro and Hikari. Rina's mother admits to accepting bribes from Kazunori, and Rina confirms that she witnessed Kazunori kill Takezawa, now also building up 2 witnesses to their story. However, she still doesn't know who orchestrated everything. Hiro jumps in claiming that Takezawa was just following his father's orders, nothing more. Rina believes him, and the exit doors open. She and her mother run out joyfully, while Hiro and Hikari hold hands, declaring that the last 2 years are finally behind them. Suddenly, Hiro collapses in pain. Rina and her mother panic and rush out to get help. Hikari leans over Hiro, a sinister smile on her face. She had laced his water bottle with poison. She tells him that when Atsuya died, she went to visit his workplace. There, his boss casually mentioned how unfortunate it was that the time of the meeting had been changed. She looks at Hiro and asks, "What were you doing there at that time?" When Atsuya died, her happiness died with him. And ever since, she's been craving the look of guilt and pain that Hiro now wears on his face. The series ends with Hikari walking away. Hiro tries to tell her that he loves her, but before he can say anything, she interrupts him. "Do you think I could ever forgive the person who was truly responsible for killing Atsuya?" she says. Rabbits get deeply envious, you know? And that was Judge. Honestly, it wasn't that horrible. It could have been way worse, but there was some stuff that I actually really liked better here than in Doubt. First off, I like the concept a lot better, of the voting people off and then getting them to just hate each other. However, I will say I didn't like the part of the traitor aspect of the story. However, I did also really like how each of the participants were related to each other. In Doubt, the participants were just randoms who played the same video game, but in Judge, everyone played a part in the overall revenge plot. And that was also really nice that we saw the twist that the protagonist that we've been following is actually the killer, even though the second twist was very obvious. So with every little good thing about this series, there's always something that has that little detail or twist that kind of ruins it for me. Oh, the concept is really good, but I didn't like this part of the concept. All of the participants knew each other, however, this participant was basically manipulating everybody else. The twist that the protagonist was really awesome and unexpected, however, the main twist was very obvious since chapter 1. So I think this series is a mix of good and bad. I think it's fine. It's not better than Doubt, but also not completely off. If Doubt was like a 7, I say Judge was like a 6.5. Now, can we actually say that about the other 2 series, I wonder? But thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember to join the Patreon and the Discord server. Both links will be in the description below. Also, this is my first video back and I did get a little sick at the end of Japan, so this is why I sound kind of stuffy, so I hope that wasn't too much of a distraction. But I'm also very excited to announce another voting poll. And if you want more horror videos like this one, then why not scroll down and hit that subscribe button. But I'll be seeing you guys in the next video.